Hi, I'm John Corvino. The Sodom and Gomorrah story may be the biblical passage most frequently cited against homosexuality. It may also be the least relevant, because it's not clear it has much to do with homosexuality at all. But don't take my word for it. Let's look at the relevant text. Now, let me set the stage a little bit here. Sodom and Gomorrah are very wicked cities. The text doesn't yet specify why, and the Lord is intent on destroying them. But Abraham, whose nephew Lot lives there, intercedes with the Lord so that he might reconsider. So the Lord does what any reasonable deity would do. He sends some visiting angels to investigate. Apparently, traveling angels don't get a per diem, so they're about to camp out in the public square, but Lot comes along and says, No, come crash at my place. And this is where we jump in. So they, the visiting angels, turned aside to him and entered his house. And he made them a feast and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. But before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both young and old, all the people to the last man, surrounded the house. And they called out to Lot, Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so that we may know them. Now, if we take the word know in a sexual sense there, what do we have? We have the attempted gang rape of visiting angels. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that gang rape is bad. It's bad regardless of the gender of the perpetrators or the victims. Why then do people take this as a story about homosexuality? Even Scripture itself identifies Sodom's sin otherwise. Ezekiel at 16:49 says, This was the guilt of your sister Sodom. She and her daughters had pride, excess of food, and prosperous ease, but did not aid the poor and needy. In other words, the Sodomites were self-indulgent and callous, not gay. Now, it's true that in the New Testament, written centuries later, the Epistle of Jude refers to the Sodomites as engaging in sexual immorality and pursuing unnatural lust. But the Greek for unnatural lust is literally went after strange flesh, that is, hetero flesh. And even traditionalist scholars recognize that this refers to the human-angel boundary, not to homosexuality. It would be very odd to refer to someone of the same sex as hetero flesh, although I guess it makes sense that sex with angels would be unnatural. But people say, now wait a second, John, you've left out a relevant part of the text. All right, let's press on. So the townspeople are saying, Bring them out to us so that we may know them. Lot went out of the door to the men, shut the door after him, and said, I beg of you, my brothers, do not act so wickedly. Look, I have 2 daughters who have not known a man. Let me bring them out to you, and do to them as you please. Only do nothing to these men, for they have come under the shelter of my roof. I want us to pause there and consider what just happened. The townspeople are about to gang rape the visitors. Lot says, Do not act so wickedly. So presumably he's going to give us an alternative to acting wickedly, which is rape my virgin daughters instead. What? Lot is supposed to be the good guy in this story. Now you might say, yeah, but he offered them the daughters. They didn't want the daughters. Doesn't that make them gay? No. First of all, if they just wanted another man, they had access to one. Remember, Lot went out of the door, shut it after him. They could have raped Lot, but they didn't. Why? Well, to answer that question, let's look at a very similar story at Judges 19. Here we have a Levite priest and his party visiting Gibeah, and an old man offers them shelter. The townspeople surround the house, start banging on the door, say, Bring them out to us so that we may know them. And the old man says, No, my brothers, do not act so wickedly. Since this man is my guest, do not do this vile thing. Here are my virgin daughter and his concubine. Let me bring them out now, ravish them, and do whatever you want to them. But against this man, do not do such a vile thing. But the men would not listen to him. So the man seized his concubine and put her out to them. They wantonly raped her and abused her all through the night into the morning. Now the parallels here are striking. In both cases, you have an angry mob trying to rape visitors, an offer of women, and a refusal of that offer. In this case, however, a woman is thrown out and the mob is apparently sated. What are these stories about? Not same-sex attraction, much less consensual same-sex relationships, but violence and abuse. These are xenophobic mobs trying to humiliate foreigners by sexually violating them. And sadly, we don't have to look very far back to understand this mindset. All of us have heard stories of soldiers in the Middle East and elsewhere trying to humiliate their captives by stripping, fondling, and sodomizing them. And in that sense, using the Sodom and Gomorrah story to condemn homosexuality would be like using the Abu Ghraib prison scandal for the same purpose. It's not about the same thing at all. Now, there are some people who say that the true sin of Sodom is inhospitality. Personally, I think that's a rather weak term for what's going on here. Failing to offer your visitors a beverage after they've traveled a long way to see you, that's inhospitality. Trying to gang rape them is quite another matter. And let's not even mention offering them your virgin daughters, which apparently is biblical good form. The Sodom story is not going to tell us much about homosexuality, but it will teach us about people's tendency to read their prejudices into the text rather than looking at what it actually says. No, I'm fine with a beverage.